Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Sunday, August 16th. Greetings from Mile High City, just outside the Mile High City in Colorado, Denver. So today, I'm going to be seated in this chair, comfortable chair. If you're comfortable to get on the ground and be on your side, that's where we'll be. You could start on your back for our centering, and then we'll roll over to our side. That would be optimal. Seated is also absolutely perfectly fine. So choose your orientation, your positioning, your asana. Having the slight feeling I'm forgetting something, so I am recording. We had to leave YouTube. They'll have to go to a different recording. I've got my tiny little bell to ring today, travel bell. So let's begin. Did you notice anything, any response in your body as you heard those chimes? As we're attending to our arrival right here together today. Perhaps something in your breath, perhaps the whole body exhaled. As always, I thank you so much for joining me here today. We stayed at a very cute Airbnb, truly a bed and breakfast and inn. And we're actually two little houses, Victorian houses next to each other in Denver 2 nights ago, called Queen Anne's Inn. Arrived to the aroma of baking chocolate chip cookies and to beautiful artwork, local artists throughout the spaces, community spaces. In the entryway of the building, the house we were in addition to incredibly beautiful murals, was a large poster of a couple paragraphs by the poet Wendell Berry, and I'll read those to you right now. A community is the mental and spiritual condition of knowing that the place is shared. The place is shared. And that the people who share the place define and limit the possibilities of each other's lives. It is the knowledge that people have of each other, their concern for each other, their trust in each other, the freedom with which they come and go among themselves. It is the knowledge that people have of each other, their concern for each other, their trust in each other, the freedom with which they come and go among themselves. So I arrived to these words in a very much a community feel in this space, welcoming and community, that I've not stayed in that many bed and breakfasts of that kind where there's multiple rooms, but maybe a handful, 5 or 6 of them. And this one truly did cultivate that feel the most by its design, and probably by the history of all that's happened there and the intention. But also, I had just started reading a book that our friend Jackie, who's often here, might be watching later, recommends, and she quotes from this book often. It's called What the Robin Knows, by a tracker, a fellow who's studied with incredibly well-known trackers and done this for probably a good 30 or 40 years himself by now. And he gives an example of the deep kind of bird listening that he does, and I'm just at the very beginning of the book, where he was at a conference where he was probably going to present there on his topic, but they were telling a little bit about their center and what they do. They were in a room where the windows were closed, but there were big windows looking out. And while he was absorbed and paying attention to the person giving the talk, he was also noticing a couple birds outside. I'm forgetting the kinds of birds. One was up on a bush, a shrub. The other was on the ground. And he couldn't hear them, but by seeing the body language, the twitch in the tail, or the positioning of the head and shoulders, if you could say that, of a bird. And then the bird on the ground jumped up a certain way, a little bit higher. I'm not sure if as high as the other bird. He knew that another creature was coming, that it would be a cat. And he interrupted the speaker, and he just shared his observation and said that the next thing that's going to happen is a cat is going to come into the picture. And it did. It did come to pass. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't a fox. It wasn't a squirrel. It was a cat. And he shared that he would notice the bird behavior, what they did with their bodies would be different had it been one of those other animals. And it just alerted me to how am I among beings that I'm with? The day before I had sort of paused because I was moving our trash can before leaving, and there was a mockingbird, a little smaller one, maybe it was a young one, on one of our shrubs. And it just caught my attention for a moment, and I gave it some attention. But by reading this book by, I'm forgetting the author now, What the Robin Knows, the author, I reflected on that, and he talks about how each one is an individual. I see many mockingbirds in our yard, but I think there are many. I don't know. It could be 3 of the same ones, 2 of the same ones that are there year after year. Now my whole sense, my whole perception, my whole possibility of what I know about the mockingbird is changed. The whole sense of the community of my home is a little bit altered. So all that is partly to emphasize and elaborate a little on the importance of our coming together, that I'm always stressing how special that is. And also that we attend as we listen. So now as we do the little ground sound breath cues that I offer at the beginning of our practice, as we listen to sound, and in this hotel room, I'm not hearing sound outside the same way I do at my house, but just listening to our surroundings, whatever they are, feeling the impact of that on our own bodies, our own psyche, our own breathing, here now. For me now, voices in the hallway. Maybe listening to your own thoughts. I had a stream of concern just pop into my mind and float through. And listening with all your cells, with the skin cells, the nerve cells, to the temperature of the air. Beginning to feel breath. Probably that has come through maybe for you in this equation already of presence, equation of presence. And ground, I don't usually come to that last, but sound today, sound, breath, ground. Sensing the touch of the ground underneath us, the chair for me, perhaps your chair or your carpet or yoga mat on the ground. And noticing perhaps a combination of both an openness, spaciousness, and also a very rooted, grounded right here-ness. I am here. And from here we'll take a little movement, it's the small movement that we do with a certain kind of attention, almost the same attention we've just brought to our stillness, and this place right here, the gateway to the presence that's always here. And today we'll start with drawing your shoulder. I'm going to give you two choices. Either up towards your ear, if you're sitting, that might be the more comfortable one to start with, or down away from your ear, one side. So, I'm sorry, if you're on your back, you need to roll over onto your side. I forgot that piece. So if you're sitting, you can stay where you are. If you're choosing to be on the ground, roll to one side, and make sure, just do a little quick arrival of ground, sound, breath, arriving on your side. And then notice, which direction do you prefer? Is there a sense of wanting to pull the shoulder up towards your ear first, with an up and back into place? Or it's a smaller motion for my body, but taking the shoulder away from the ear and back into place. A small motion, it doesn't have to be big. In fact, it can be super tiny. It can be just like so for example, I can take my shoulder, feels like about 6 inches up, maybe it's 4, I don't know. But maybe I'll just take it 1 inch and then let it drop back into place from sitting. It might not feel like a drop when you're on your side. And moving downward, I might just move the shoulder, but just choose one direction. Just emphasizing the smallness of the action we could do. I might just move it a millimeter and then back into place. And just that movement, coming back, and sort of a pause at both ends of that movement. Move, pause in that new place, return, and pause. A slow movement. And all these guidelines so far are to slow things down enough to make them bite-sized enough that we really get to feel the more, phrase Eric Schiffman often used, the more of what is happening here. The more through the connection to the spine, the feel of just moving your shoulder that tiny little bit, pausing, coming back to where you started and pausing, how that affects how you press the ground, how the ground holds you, how the chair holds you, how the breath is involved. perhaps there's a syncing up of breathing and movement, but that's not necessary at all. Perhaps you notice you hold your breath while you're figuring out this small challenge I'm offering. And then just stop. Stop where you are. We're at a new place now. It's as if we've been on a walk, kind of. And now we come to just stop where we are. And on a walk you might look around, but my invitation is just stop, be still, and see what's here. What thoughts, what sensation of body, tightness, openness, lightness, freedom, pain, whatever arrives. And then start again, but this time take the other direction. So if you chose going up toward the shoulder, go down, away from the shoulder, same side, and slow. And what I forgot to suggest to offer on the first set that we did is allow a lightness, a joyfulness, at least a looking for harmony, for integration, for ease. Let that be the sort of objective, the intent. And a wonder at what you find along the way. Perhaps some part of the body responds in a way you are surprised at, or you just hadn't been aware of before. So I've been describing the movement from the shoulder, I've mentioned the head, but what might be happening as we take movement here, initiate it there, what might be happening in the lower belly or in the sacrum, the bone on either side of the lower back, or it's a triangular-like bone, but two of its points. Well, it's got sort of 3 points, but you might feel something in that bone. Maybe something at the sits bones. Maybe something in the other side of the body, as that side is not quote-unquote doing anything, but it is in a way. It's being pulled along or pushed along. It may be opening and engaging. And then go, just segue into, it's one of my favorite words, segue, into both directions, going up toward the shoulder and then away down, toward the head, and down away from the ear, the head. Looking for smoothness, harmony. You may even find it feels good to move the head in some way. Maybe just a little, maybe not at all. I initially suggested moving slowly, and that's very helpful for folding in all that we're to kind of open up to the more of what is here, to go slowly. Just like when you're learning something new, or I'm trying to think of sometimes, and driving around where our hotel is just a couple hours ago, I had to go pretty slow. I was cognizant there was almost nobody out on the street, but I'm going slowly, trying to see something. Same thing, you're in a new place, doing something new. But if you like, after this, go ahead and pause now. I'll have you vary the speeds if you like in some other way. So let's just pause again, be still. Just breathing. Notice perhaps the inside of your mouth, throat, the back of the neck, the base of the skull and the back. Notice the feel of being on the ground, whether it's just your pelvis on the ground, like for me, and part of my legs, or your whole side body. And we'll just return to this same side one more time, one more set. But this time, we'll start with the motion, the up and down, where we were. And perhaps you'll go the same speed, or you'll go maybe a different speed, and maybe you'll change the range of motion. Maybe you'll go a little bit more in an oval shape instead of just up and down. And you might have found that the up and down is actually sort of an arc, not really a straight line. That has to do with every part of our body has a curve. There are no straight lines in the body, parts or connections. We can draw a straight line from something to something, but everything is arced and curved and spiraled and orbed. And then add in some movement with the same side hip. So maybe as the shoulder moves away from the head, the hip and shoulder come together and they move apart. As the shoulder goes up, the hip goes apart. Or take them both up, both down. You have a few, do this for about another minute. So play with speed, direction, and actually the way I've given the directions sounds very two-dimensional or three-dimensional. Let there be a little bit of three-dimensionality, especially by adding hip and shoulder together and the rest of the body. We got 3 points in a way. This movement, I was introduced to it in a workshop with I forget the name of this teacher who's from Israel. We did both from laying down, sitting, and we added a whole lot more movements with other side shoulder, other hip. Eventually, we worked up to some judo movements from this. He combines Feldenkrais and judo. It was very, very interesting. I won't be offering that. I don't know it. Not today. Not in the near future. Maybe in the way future. All right. So come to a still place. If you're on your back, on your side, roll over on your back. The next place we're going in our practice is a stillness meditation. You might do it from your back or you might come to sitting, but that's just information. Just stay where you are now and sense and feel. Let your mind, maybe there's some comments, some observations your nervous system is recording for you, consciously and unconsciously. And as you make this choice next, whether to come up to sitting from laying down or to stay where you are, I find a benefit from just less movement. So staying where you are would be a good choice, but obviously you can choose to come to sitting as well. So do that, make that choice, and then in a few breaths we'll start our stillness. And I have a poem to share set us on our way. You can go through the ground, sound, breath, pointers to reorient yourself to the presence that's already here. Or any other ways you do that. Sometimes just paying attention to a breath, counting the breath is a helpful tool for that re-arrival. And once again, this is from Mary Oliver from her book Blue Horses. A little ado about this and that. If I walk out into the world in irritation or self-centeredness, the birds scatter. I would like people to remember me, how inexhaustible was her mindfulness. The hurricane will find us, or it will not. That will always be the way. With Shelley, I feel the visceral experience of imagination. Can you imagine anyone having a casual faith? This is what I know from years of being me, said a friend. You will always love me. About God, how could he give up his secrets and still be God? If you think you see a face in the clouds, why not send a greeting? Can't do any harm. How inexhaustible was her mindfulness. I am here. So about another minute of stillness, this attentiveness, open attentiveness, not clutching, sensing the boundlessness of awareness this way. And reflecting, perhaps as the poem and the reading and my guidance has shown, what it's like when you're among the birds, or a bird, or by extension other humans, other beings, just whatever surroundings you're in. Imagine the feel, and maybe as you're conjuring it up, you can just have the feel of your space and what the objects are there and how you are among them. We're relating to all that. The food we have in our home that once was alive, or still is, some of it, cellularly. Or you might have imagined yourself in a place, as I remembering that encounter with the mockingbird, and the feel of it in your body. The feel I had as I encountered the mockingbird, and then as I reflected how I could be with it, reading this book. What is the feel? And even say it out loud to yourself. Maybe for me, the new feel with the mockingbird is potential, possibility, vastness, a big openness. And so you might stay just where you are for our closing, or you can come up to seated from your reclined position. With the same bit of attentiveness. It's not a huge lift, a huge effort to just open a little more. It's not something you have to give away of yourself, just a bit more openness. At the same time, groundedness that helps us not flow away with the hurricane or the metaphorical ones. Just staying right here and yet open, relating, interrelating, interbeing, and witnessing. Bring your hands together at your heart in the gesture of closure, of gratitude, of reverence, the bow of the head. And I say might because you have your own way to close. And again, I thank you for joining in our practice and our powerful togetherness. I want to thank and just recognize I saw a new name on the registry. Mark, thanks for joining us. And some of the same names, Lisa, Patty, Jackie, Nancy. Oh yes, one Lisa, different Lisa, two of the Lisas. Thanks, Steve, for being here. I'll see you guys next week. Let me stop the recording. I didn't check what Sun and Moon's offering just now, so do check your local listings, and I'll be here next week from my own home again. Ciao, ciao.